Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Atlanta Rotary. It is great to see all of you. I hope you had a terrific Labor Day break last week, and it's great to see everyone back again here today. Keith Parker will be leading our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, and we would ask that you remain standing after the Pledge of Allegiance while we silently honor the playing of the national anthem by Doug Astrup, and appreciate everyone helping us continue to respect our CDC guidance. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Please join me in prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Dear Lord, I am so filled with optimism and hope today. Through your divine wisdom, we are seeing acts of extraordinary courage and sacrifice made by all manners of men, women, and even children. Acts that only you know of which we are capable. We see firefighters battling unprecedented destruction in California and the Pacific Northwest. We see bus drivers skillfully navigating their vehicles amidst flash flooding in New York City. We see everyday folks taking on enormous risk in Louisiana to rescue senior citizens from their homes. Even closer, we see the heroic acts of the son of our own Brian McGowan, a young firefighter who entered a burning home not once, not twice, but 3 times, pulling out 2 people, one alive and one deceased. This young Mr. McGowan epitomizes, again, what you know of which we are capable. I think Kipling is the one who summarizes it best in saying, when you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Please join me in citing the pledge. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome again to everyone. Welcome. We have a terrific program today. Following our announcements, we will hear a special remembrance of the 9/11 historic moment from past President Cannon Carr. And we're especially honored today to have with us not one but 2 of Georgia's most influential leaders. We will hear from Donna Hyland, President and CEO of Children's Healthcare, about the expansion of her wonderful facility. And then we will hear from President and CEO of the Georgia Lottery, Gretchen Corbin, who will also share an update on her organization. First, to start us off with some guest introductions, I'm pleased to welcome 2 visiting Rotarians. We're honored to have with us the president of the Buckhead Rotary Club, Kathy Lamont, and also Kimberly Phipps-Nichols, who's visiting from the Rotary Club of Houston. Welcome to both of you. A few additional guests: Janine Masholt, who's a guest of Donna Hyland; Tiffany Starr, guest of Ken Stewart; Nick DeLuzio, also a guest of Ken Stewart; and Fatima Mumba, who's a guest of Gray Campbell. Please join me in welcoming all of our guests. Congratulations to our September birthday Rotarians. You'll see a couple of slides. We have quite a number of those birthday celebrants. If any of you boys and girls from the birthday club are here today, please do stand up. Happy birthday to all of you. I'm excited to announce that the sign-up has gone out for our first ever Rotary on the Road program. You've heard us mention it previously. We're very excited. 2 weeks from today, we will take Rotary on the road to visit the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and hear from, yes, there's Billy, who will be leading the charge. We'll hear from our new Falcons General Manager, Terry Fontenot, and also have the opportunity to do a back-of-the-house tour of the Falcons locker room. Please see the sign-up link in your program email that came out this morning. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask Billy, who's heading up the program, or Abigail or Gina. Finally, an announcement in honor of our beloved fellow Rotarian, Hal Adams. As many of you may remember, Hal's dear wife, Madeline, passed away several months ago during our COVID chapter, and I'm happy to announce that there will be a wonderful celebration of Madeline's life that will be this Friday, September 17th, at Trinity Presbyterian Church at 2 p.m., I believe. Please join us in celebrating Madeline's life and honoring our fellow Rotarian, Hal Adams. Thank you. And now I have the honor of introducing our past president, Canon Carr, as we bring to a close a very somber weekend honoring the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Thank you, President Catherine. President Catherine asked me to share some thoughts. Some of you may know that I worked across the street from the Twin Towers and was there at Ground Zero on 9/11. And she asked me to share some thoughts and reflect on the day. You know, my own narrative, my own story is important really only to me, my family, and a few friends. But it does allow me to bear witness to a truly historic day with the historic acts. And it may allow me to bring some weight to the lessons that we learned from that day. You know, there's the saying, never forget, but in many respects, we have forgotten a key lesson from that day, so I'll touch on that. Catherine said, keep it to 4 minutes. It's hard to do. Unraveling the story around that day is very hard to do because each little story you tell somehow cheapens it. But what I thought I would do is share maybe 3 vignettes about that day, and then just quickly touch on the 3 lessons that at least I carry with me. I'd gotten to work early that day, so I was at my desk when the sound of thunder happened. And I looked out the window. I was facing the opposite way of the towers. It was a beautiful blue day, and I thought scaffolding must have fallen. Well, there was an announcement that came over minutes later that said, there's been an explosion in the North Tower. Stay in your seats, remain calm, carry on. Well, of course, no one did that. So everyone basically moved to the street, and it was a mood of confusion and shock because no one knew exactly what had happened. There were so many different theories about what had caused the hit, the explosion. That all changed, though, in a matter of minutes, although it seemed an eternity between the 2 plane crashes into the towers. The second one, I happened to be looking down when it happened. The earth shook, both figuratively and metaphorically. And I looked up in a large fireball, but people said that was a plane. And we moved from what was confusion and shock to chaos and clarity. People quickly figured out what was going on. Just to move this along, I was actually moving around trying to help. I was able-bodied. As you can imagine, you've seen all the documentaries you want. The street was becoming a mess. Fire, debris, whatnot. People started falling. But what amazed me, and what I'll always remember, this is just one of those things seared in my head, these fire trucks, beautiful red fire trucks driving to the base of the towers. And they had little ladders on them that might go up 4 or 5 stories. And I remember just looking up, thinking, is this the best we can do? And in looking up, you see, those black holes with smoke coming out, turning to a nasty orange. and the people above them holding on for dear life. You could basically see people in the windows or hanging out. And the power of just raw humanity doing the best they could in an impossible situation was so apparent. The bravery of these people, as people streaming out of the building, firemen moving in to rescue in what was increasingly an impossible situation. There was talk about trying to get an airplane, getting helicopters to the top, something to get these people out of the building. But all the best we had was that human effort to come try to save those people from the fire trucks. One of my last searing memories, and then maybe two, and then we'll move to the conclusion, is it dawned on me I was in the way, so something told me to leave. So I was actually, and we lived in New Jersey, so I was actually able to get on what was the last ferry out of Manhattan. And as I was getting on the ferry, I turned and looked, and my last image was of someone holding on, and I said, hold on, I'm sure someone can come get you. But it was poignant, and I'm sure many of you here have been to those towers. I had meetings on those floors. It turns out my wife knew 7 people who were up there. I ended up knowing 1. But in an alternative universe, our lives intertwined, that could have been us. It could have been you. It's odd how that could happen. So I got on the ferry, and the last thing I'll share with you is I was riding up the Hudson, and I never thought the towers would fall. And I saw the South Tower fall and engulf Lower Manhattan in just a toxic dust. And there, just the sense of loss is so huge. And from there, my own stories come, and that'll be for another day. But the amazing thing is, the following weeks, when you in New York City and in the tri-state area, there was fear, there was fatigue, there was hope, there was disappointment, but there was no busyness. There was love without pretense. There was love without expectation, and that was precious. For a moment, for those weeks, we did touch the divine in our human sense. And so when I think of the 3 lessons we learned, just quickly, 1, ordinary people can do extraordinary things. It happened so much, and Keith, your prayer today brought that true and reminded us. So many amazing things happened. I just remember United Airlines Flight 93. People took that plane down. Many of them were anonymous. They saved the Capitol or the White House because that was where the plane was going. Amazing those things can happen. The second lesson is focus on the big things. Don't get tied up in the petty. And the third, and most important, take care of each other. Faith in government right after 9/11 spiked to over 50%. Since then, it's basically dropped, and it's now about 25%. Government doesn't save us. We save us, right? And it's the power of us together, and that is why clubs and entities like the Rotary Club are so special. It is the power of us. The final thing I'll leave with you is there is that saying, never forget, and we do a good job of remembering that day, of celebrating heroes, of honoring the vigils that happen, but we have forgotten that selfless love, that power of unity, that glimpse of the divine. So ordinary people, love without pretense, understanding and patience and forgiveness, those are the lessons for me from that day, and those are the things we need to remember. Thank you.
Wow, what a powerful story and so poignant. And Cannon, in your true and typical way, you have also shown us the optimism and the positive that can come out of that incredible day and the glimpse of the divine that you reminded us of. So thank you for that. I have one additional guest to announce, Lady Jackie, visiting from the Ghana Rotary Club. I'd like to recognize her. Welcome to you. And now I'm pleased to introduce Children's Healthcare President and CEO Donna Hyland, who will share with us an update on the $1.5 billion pediatric facility that has been unfolding just a few miles to the north of us. Donna was born in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and initially started off on an accounting track, which ultimately led her to become the CFO of Children's Healthcare at the early age of 29, and the rest is history. Donna has spent 32 years shaping pediatric healthcare in Georgia and well beyond. She has overseen the incredible growth of children's healthcare as she brought together Eggleston, Scottish Rite, Hughes Spalding, and the Marcus Autism organizations into what has now become one of the top pediatric healthcare facilities in the entire country. We're grateful to have you here with us, Donna, and appreciate your sharing a glimpse of all the exciting work going on just up the street. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, and it's such a privilege to be here today to talk about what is a really exciting project that we have underway. I think we all need some really positive symbols, and thank you for sharing that story. It was very, very powerful. So if you've driven on I-85, right at the North Druid Hills interchange, you may have seen something rising from the ground. It doesn't look like this yet, but it will in just a few short years. We are so proud to be constructing the Arthur M. Blank Hospital, which is being exclusively built to serve children in our city and in our state. Children's has come a long way in its 100 years, starting way back in 1915. And I think it's just another great example of a precious asset that's been preserved and grown in our city that would not be possible if it were not for leaders like you. In fact, many of our current and former trustees are Rotarians, and Tommy Holder, who's sitting right there, is our current chair of the Board of Children's. So Children's is very much a product of community leaders who have stepped forward to make sure that kids get the best health care they possibly can in our city and state. One of the biggest moves of Children's, so a big leap forward, was in 1998 when Eggleston and Scottish Rite were merged to form Children's. And since that time, the synergy and the community benefit that have been derived from that bold move has far exceeded all of our dreams. Today, Children's is one of the largest and best pediatric healthcare systems in the country. And last year, with our partner Emory, we were actually #1 in Department of Pediatrics for NIH research. And that entire mission has been grown as a result of the merger. That merger was driven by community leaders who came together and said, we need to preserve this precious asset for generations to come. So again, the community really has driven that. Children's is unique in a lot of ways. One of those is that we serve one of the most diverse populations of kids in the United States. We have about 1.2 million visits per year. We see about 450,000 kids from all over Georgia and beyond. 60% of those kids are poor, and last year we provided over $150 million in uncompensated care. Again, we could not do that if it were not for the leadership of this community and the support from the community. We have about 2,000 doctors and 11,000 employees who come to work every day, and all they do is their very best to take care of kids. So the Arthur M. Blank Hospital is our opportunity to take another big leap in the future of pediatric health care. This is much more than a building. It's really a tool for where our doctors and nurses and caregivers are going to be able to practice what they do best. It's a place where lives will be saved, and we remember that constantly. It's a place where clinical research will develop new cures, and it's a place where families can feel safe when they're struggling with some of the hardest times in their lives. So the new hospital will be Georgia's only Level 1 pediatric trauma center. It will be one of the largest pediatric heart centers in the country. It will house the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorders Center with 110 beds, and by the way, that's 50% bigger than St. Jude's. Many of you have heard of St. Jude's. It will be where kids are given a new chance at life through liver, kidney, and heart transplants. We will have more beds. Each room will be looking out on gardens. We'll have private rooms. We'll have many more amenities for families because families are coming from all over. We'll have a special care unit that will treat patients with highly infectious disease. We've taken what we've learned from COVID to make sure we're incorporating that in the new hospital. We'll have 3D printing labs where doctors and researchers can basically fabricate body parts. And 3D printing is truly the future of medicine. Recently, we were the first in Georgia to place a 3D printed tracheal splint in a pediatric patient. This splint was made by Georgia Tech biomedical engineers and placed in this child by surgeons at Children's. This was a 7-month-old who was battling a life-threatening airway obstruction, and it allowed him to breathe on his own. So that's that partnership of Georgia Tech, children's doctors. It's just an amazing place to be able to practice pediatric medicine in Georgia. We'll have a facility to manufacture cells. Using patient stem cells, we're developing valves that will grow as the child grows, which eliminates the need for them to have future surgeries and anti-rejection medications. So the best in science will also be included. We're basically creating a hospital in a park because we know that nature and outdoors enhances healing. This is a 78-acre campus, which is amazing for a hospital to have that. We're going to have 20 acres of green space, 3 miles of walking trails, multiple gardens, 1,200 new trees, a great lawn the size of a football field where we'll welcome children to come be able to experience nature. All the rooms will be able to look onto nature. I mean, there are a lot of kids that can't get out of their rooms, so they'll be able to see it. We're having special attention to water conservation, smart building techniques, recycling, and we're targeting and will achieve LEED certification. So this hospital is just going to be an incredible asset for Georgia, and we're so proud of it. We treat kids from all over the state, all 159 and way beyond, and we know how important this is for families. Families recognize the value of having this kind of health care nearby, and many of them are your employees, and we hear from employees constantly of how important it is that when they chose to move to Atlanta that we had this kind of world-class health care. So we are just so excited about this and grateful to this community, especially to Arthur M. Blank, for stepping forward and making this transformational donation that's making this facility possible. We have a mission center. If you'd like to come, you can actually see glimpses of, we've constructed some of the rooms in the hospital, and you could actually come visit, and we would be happy to show you, just to give you a glimpse of what's to come for kids. So, of course, we have a video that we wanted to share, which I think really brings to life and is a great illustration of what to expect with this fantastic new facility.
Thank you so much, Donna. What an amazing facility. We wish you great continued success, and thank you especially for your leadership that is impacting so many lives around the state. So now, as we turn to our featured program, I have the honor of introducing another of Georgia's incredibly influential leaders. She is someone who's also shaping the lives of our kids, but in this case, doing so through the topic of education. As President and CEO of the Georgia Lottery Corporation, Gretchen Corbin oversees the second largest lottery organization in the country and the sixth largest in the world. Over its 25 years, the Georgia Lottery has allocated $23 billion to support Georgia's students. It has provided more than 1.9 million Hope scholarships, allowed 1.6 million four-year-olds to attend Georgia pre-K programs, and provided $1.8 billion in resources to support Georgia's schools and technology. When Gretchen was named President and CEO in 2018, I think it recognized in many ways one of her great gifts, which is her ability to bring together all the different pieces of this state to achieve progress. Gretchen was born in Athens. She grew up in Cedartown. She spends part of her time in Rome, Georgia, and she's also part of a fifth generation of her family who has lived within about 3 or 4 blocks of Piedmont Park. So she knows Atlanta, but she also knows Georgia. Gretchen also understands all of Georgia's students. In a prior chapter, she oversaw the technical college system of Georgia, while also serving in leadership roles on boards for the University of Georgia and for Georgia Tech. She also has a global view of Georgia. In a prior chapter, she served leadership roles with the state, where she worked closely with the Consular Corps, promoting global business for Georgia. She even opened a Georgia office in Beijing, and she also has pursued a whole series of initiatives in workforce training to allow us to become a more competitive state. In many ways, we are so fortunate to have in Gretchen a leader who has brought together all of our communities and our students, our business, and our education, all to do things to make us a better state. Please join me in welcoming Gretchen Corbin.
Well, Catherine, that was a kind introduction, and I feel really good today, so thank you very much. You made me feel great. But isn't it interesting? I was so excited to be here in my own home Rotary Club today, and I am very excited. And it really had me reflecting, Cannon, about just kind of leadership in general and how we need each other and how Paul Harris pulled us together around the table with just a few businessmen many, many years ago to just support one another in business. And then I came here today and I got to see all of my Leadership Atlanta 2020 friends, and then everyone in the room who I just think the world about. And then Catherine, to hear that kind introduction and to realize all of those kind things that you said about me would have never been possible without the likes of Ken Stewart and with Glenn Cornell. Glenn, is that you? Did you sneak in the room? And there's Ken, of course, and so many more of individuals who I have worked with who have really just kind of provided me with those incredible opportunities, Catherine. So thank you for those incredible words. But I'm very humbled by the individuals that I've had the ability to spend my career with and the individuals that I spend my career with today. The educators of our higher institutions in this club, whether at Emory, whether at Clark Atlanta, whether at Morehouse, whether at Georgia Tech, whether at Atlanta Technical College, from those individuals to individuals who have made the Georgia Lottery possible. Leaders like Veronica Biggins, who was one of our chairs of the Georgia Lottery. Keith Mason, who was a part of making sure that the Georgia Lottery came to be when he was in the administration of Governor Miller, and so many more. I'm very humbled to be here today, to be really the steward of your Georgia Lottery. And the exciting part of today is your Georgia Lottery is doing incredibly well and continues to serve students daily and more students. And so today I thought I would just kind of talk about three things. Pretty easily, an update on the Georgia Lottery, as well as what to take back to your friends and family. What's new with the Georgia Lottery? And then as well, a couple of thoughts quickly on leadership. And so, for a quick update, I want to bring to you our fiscal year 21 results. I don't know if you were here, but I had the honor of being at this club presenting before the pandemic in regards to the success of Georgia Lottery. And we have continued to be successful, and whether it's me or one of my predecessors, you will probably say, Gretchen, y'all are always talking about your success. Well, that's because we're very proud of it. And we've been successful for every year that we've been in existence, and we've grown every year except 2 over our previous years. Think about that. A company whose revenues and the returns to its stakeholders have grown every year without 2. Eric, I see you out there. Thank you for all that you've done to make the Georgia Lottery possible. And Catherine said, Gretchen, what are a couple of insider things you can tell us about the lottery that other people wouldn't know if they weren't in this room today? Well, I can't tell you the numbers. But probably the biggest piece of success, to be the second largest lottery in the United States, and that's based on per capita sales, or the 6th largest lottery in the world. And when you look at those top 10s throughout the world, there are only 2 states. The others are countries. I, as a Georgian, have an incredible Georgia Lottery. And at the end of the day, the secret sauce is pretty simplistic. And it's the way we were developed through our statute to be a corporation for the benefit of the state of Georgia. It's really simple, isn't it, Eric? Governor Miller said we want to keep the best and brightest in Georgia. We are going to do this by catching our students very early in pre-K and giving them the best that pre-K can deliver. And by keeping them in Georgia, by making sure that when our best and brightest are going through their Georgia high schools and they have the ability to go anywhere in the United States or the world for their higher education, that they will choose to go to a Georgia institution. Because I, as Governor Miller, think that that's great for Georgia, it's important for Georgia, and I can see that in the future, our Georgia companies and our Georgia communities will benefit as a result. So this is my test to see if Governor Miller's vision worked. If you are a Hope Scholar, please stand up. I missed it too by a couple. Oh, you did it. You're young. You're young. All right. Okay. No. Stay up if you don't mind. Stay standing, please. What is your name? JP James. JP, where'd you go to school? Georgia Tech. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about high school. How'd you make that decision, and what have you done with that Great Hope Scholarship?
So mine was a little bit different because I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, and my dad came down here to run Kraft Nabisco as it got merged, and I came here, became an in-state, and then went to Georgia Tech and got the scholarship, and it helped out. That was able to take care of all of my educational needs, and I was able to get a few other scholarships, which got me into entrepreneurship, and fast forward a couple decades, here I am.
And now you're part of the Atlanta Rotary community, making a big, big difference. Thank you for telling your story, JP, and kind of that passes over to Ken Stewart as Commissioner of the Department of Economic Development. One of the little nuggets of the Georgia Lottery that, if you're not in the inside ballgame, Catherine, that you might not see, is that sometimes it's a very important recruiting tool. It's a very important recruiting tool for businesses coming to Georgia Herald for two reasons. And the first is executives are smart, and sometimes they can think about themselves. And when you're at the table and you're talking to someone who has middle schoolers and high schoolers, Jim Reed, I see you shaking your head, and you have the ability to say, come to Georgia instead of another state, and your students, your children, and the children of anyone else that you bring to the state after being here for 2 years has the ability to receive this Hope Scholarship. They're like, wait, what? What did you say about any business? And forget the business incentives, we're in. Happened often, didn't it, Ken? And then the other piece of that, from an economic development prospect, is the fact that Georgia is different. When we think about the Hope Scholarship going for students and going for education outside of K through 12, that isn't typical. There are a couple of states in the union that have done that, but they are few and far between. And I think when we're in Georgia, we don't necessarily remember that. We think maybe because of the way our lottery operates, that other lotteries' beneficiaries are also pre-K and Hope students. It's not the case. A couple of states it is. But again, Zell Miller had seen what happened in Florida. And in Florida, they had said the same thing, that your Hope Scholarship will go for just that. The Florida residents found that some of the lottery dollars were going to K through 12 and that the general budget had just kind of been pushed to the side. So instead of using K through 12, general budget dollars for K through 12. And so that was a piece of our statute, wasn't it, Eric? That the lottery funds would never supplant any education dollars that were already being spent in Georgia, but that it would only supplement. And I bring that to you today because Governor Miller kept that promise, but every Georgia governor and legislator between Governor Miller to Governor Kemp has kept that promise. And so, as the steward, as the president and CEO of the corporation, when I look around and think, what makes us different? That is a really big piece. And so a big kudos and a big thank you on behalf of this parent to the governor. JP, correct? Getting back to you, go ahead and stand up. You just distracted me for 2 seconds. But the reason I asked you to stand up is because I wanted to ask our students to stand up, and then I wanted to ask any of us who are parents, and I have a college sophomore now, and more importantly, Hope Scholar. Any of us who are parents of Hope Scholars, please stand up as well.
What about grandchildren?
I'm getting to you. So congratulations to the parents, and to the grandparents, please join us as well. This is when you know it works. And then, also keep standing, Keith. And then think about this. Who of you are employers who have had employees who have been Hope Scholars or pre-K beneficiaries? This thing, the Georgia Lottery, has worked, and it has touched all of you who are standing, and I would suspect even those of us who are sitting. It has or it will touch you as well. So thank you very much. I love being at a local Rotary Club asking that question because it makes me feel like, okay, we continue to be on that right track. Guys, fiscal year 21 was the most successful fiscal year in the 28-year history, with a record $1.54 billion being returned to the state of Georgia. To put this into perspective, 5 years ago, we first returned $1 billion to the state of Georgia. Our first year, we returned a little over $300 million to the state, and we've grown every year since. We all know, and I know, we all know that there was more money in the market last year. But what I know is that my team stood up and met that demand. Whether it was the individual who was pulling together the product, whether it was our vendors, Scientific Games in Atlanta, whether it was UPS making sure that we made our delivery, whether it was Racetrack, with everyone making sure that we had our product in hand to provide to our player when they wanted to use the Georgia Lottery as their entertainment, we were there. We didn't miss that opportunity. And what we saw, I think if you were to put the Georgia Lottery right up to Home Depot, my guess is our sales followed track. The beginning of March, I was panicked. I was calling everybody saying, hold on, hold the fort, praise God we have a reserve. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. Within 2 weeks, when Georgians were sheltered in place, we had two incredible things happen in Georgia. The first was, of course, that our retailers were essential businesses. Our players had the opportunity to go to their retailers and purchase where they desired. The second was your Georgia Lottery had an online presence. And I think I encouraged you the last time I was here to look at your Georgia Lottery app, to download it, to have it at hand. We've just updated over the last month, so please do it again. That piece where you would probably think, well, just like I can buy Starbucks online and Jen, I can go to SunTrust and Truist online, surely I can go to any lottery in the nation online. You couldn't. Before the pandemic, we were 1 to 5 to 7 states. We had spent years prior making sure that we had an online presence so that our players could play when they wanted to. But I cannot tell you how thankful I was for the leadership that came before me when I sat there in March, Georgians sheltered in, that they had the ability to play online. And so again, I think it speaks to leadership. And what those leaders 10 to 15 years ago saw before me, and then what my responsibility, Donna, when you're building a hospital, is for that next generation. So what do we see going forward? Well, again, $1.54 billion transferred to the Georgia Lottery for education. This brought our total raised for education in Georgia to more than $23.8 billion, as Catherine mentioned. And again, being here this week, I'm happy to share with you that last week, Georgia Student Finance called me and they said, Gretchen, we just sent our HOPE proceeds to the 2 millionth HOPE beneficiary representative. One student, think about that. There is a family who received their tuition statement. There was a credit there for HOPE. They were the 2 millionth HOPE beneficiary student. It works. And I will tell you, my daughter is at UGA, International Affairs. Ken, she's trying to follow in Ken Stewart and my footsteps. I've tried to lay this out. There's some things that it's not as easy as it looks. But as the technical college, or as the former technical college commissioner, when I get excited about a HOPE scholarship, I get excited about the student who had no idea how they were going to afford college, and then figured out that there was a HOPE career grant that would provide 100% of their tuition. Who said to me when I met them, I've always wanted to go to college, but I can't get my mother to fill out my financial aid form. That's the student I think about. And that's the student I get excited about. And that's the student that line them up every day. I will be there with any Georgian to teach them how to apply, to teach them about the HOPE Career Grant at a technical college, the HOPE Scholarship at an institution like a Georgia Tech, the Zell Miller Scholarship at any of our institutions. I will be that person because it changes lives, JP, and it changes communities forevermore. The young man that I was talking about, that I came across in a Waffle House one night after a Friday football game, he said, I really want to be a lineman. And I said, this is awesome. We are going to the local technical college, and matter of fact, we'll pick you up next Monday. And I had someone there, and they picked them up next Monday. And we are going to fill out your application, and we're going to get your Hope Career Grant, and you are going to go into the Georgia Power Company's lineman's program, and you are going to come out making $50,000. Is there anyone in your family who makes $50,000? He said, no, ma'am. And I said, well, you're changing your family, and you're going to be the next individual to change the next generation in your family. And so, I'm sorry, I get a little passionate about this subject. Pat said, Gretchen, you're going to do good today because you love this. I get a little passionate about my subject because sometimes when I'm talking to players, it's about the big Mega Million and the Powerball. I placed a Mega Million coupon, and I did that because it's over $300 million. So for those of you who say 20 million is just not enough, Lanny, I got to go for $300 million, it's your time. So please use your buy two, get one free, and know that you are going to be providing for that next Hope Scholar, for that next GED grant scholar as well. So very quickly, also want to make sure that I state where the Georgia Lottery dollar goes, because I think this is important. Out of every dollar, 96 cents goes back to Georgia in the area of, again, education, in the area of prizes, retailers, and operating expenses. Prizes is 63%, and as you can imagine, that's our product, Betsy. We have to sell it. So 63% is prizes. Education is 26.6%. Our retailers by statute earn 5.9%. Think about this, over 80% of small businesses throughout Georgia and the Allgood family knows Georgia. And when you think about those 159 counties and our small businesses of retailers, they received in one given year $342 million. Vendors, scientific games, individuals like IGT who make us run, they receive 2%, and the Georgia Lottery, we run on less than 1.6% of expenses for the Georgia Lottery. $0.96 to every Georgia community. As an old economic developer, I get excited about that too. We spend a lot of time running around the world, and we'll always do so, Ken, right? To call on companies to come to Georgia, to expand companies in every Georgia county. And if we would have ever said to Georgia, hey, we've got a company that will come to every 159 counties, and they will invest more than $50 million in each one of your counties over the next 20 years, what we have done, Ken? Eric, what would you have done when you're in the governor's office? Oh my gosh, I don't know what we would have done. But that's what was created through the Georgia Lottery. And so I get really passionate about it. When you go back to your communities, or when you go back to your business, when you go back to your families, I just want to ask you to take with you what I've told you today. It's really simple. Your Georgia Lottery is a big deal. It's a big deal. As the 6th largest lottery in the world, you know what my job is? To never mess it up, to keep it going forward, to grow it, and to never, ever mess it up. We know that our students depend on us. As I mentioned, all governors have kept their promise and will continue to do so. So those of our players, anyone who wins, I have to tell you there have been many a millionaire that has been created through the Georgia Lottery. And we even go by quarters. And in a given quarter, we'll talk about anywhere from 3 to 15 millionaires that were created. I don't know if any of those of you are in the room today, but there is always today and there's always tomorrow. So if you play, I want to encourage you to continue playing to win. But if you don't play, and if you're one of those individuals who casually says to me, you can imagine what some people say to me, and there's so many things I want to say back. Like, I spend my dollar on too many Starbucks. I spend my dollar sometimes on too many Netflix. If someone wants to spend $3 enjoying a game, it's their choice. And thankfully, hopefully they'll win. If they don't, a student will, and maybe it'll be your student. That's what I get excited about. And so I would encourage you, if you have a friend who plays, tell them go for it. The Georgia Lottery's adding more games. Powerball's gone to 3 days, I hope you've noticed. Mega Millions, Power, they're both over 300. Cash 3 and Cash 4 can now be played on your app. But again, if you ever talk to the individual, or if you are that individual who respectfully says, you know, I'm not so interested in gaming, I can take that if you tell me that in another state. But when you are in Georgia, and every dollar that goes to education, and I will also say every unclaimed dollar goes straight to the education account, feel that you can invest in education. If you really don't like it, go ahead and play, and if you win, don't claim your prize. We'll send it straight to education. So again, very quickly, going back to leadership, I just want to say that this year, although it's been the best in lottery history for returns, and I can tell you so many incredible stories about our team members, as I'm sure you can, it's still been a tough year, hasn't it? It's been a tough year for all of us, for our organizations, for our family members, for our team members. But you're the glue that holds it together. You're the leadership of Atlanta. And when I go into work every day, I think, I wish everyone was in my car today to encourage me, because being with you encourages me. And I think to myself, what would Jenna tell me? What would Eric tell me? What would my friends tell me? What would everybody tell me? And I think, Bob Hope, what would you tell me? And I think it would be every day as you go in, we've got to be the leaders for our teams. What did I learn from Ken Stewart? Show up for your team. They're following us to smile, Donna, to do our best, to meet our goals, to be there for our individuals. And I just want to say that as I've traveled these last 18 months, whether it was in a program today, like today, whether it was watching through Zoom, Cannon, thank you so much for making those possible, whether it was being on a committee meeting call with David, with Billy, with Jenna, Rotary sometimes was my home. And I want to thank you personally as a leader for standing by me while I was leading the Georgia Lottery during this time period. And I just want you to know that as I travel through this world and I think back on this time, I'll think of all of you. So thank you for being my friends and my families and my leaders. And I hope that if there's ever anything that I can do for you in your daily life, in your business life, that you will call on me. Because Cannon, going back to when I joined Rotary in 1998, I remember a very simple story, and that again was of Paul Harris developing Rotary, basically saying, I want to build a table of colleagues who we can just get together and get some advice from, best practices, and I can go back and use when I'm leading my team. And so I want to thank this Atlanta Rotary Club. Catherine, thank you. Cannon, thank you. And everybody here for being beside my side while I led the Georgia Lottery to $1.5 billion to the state. Georgia couldn't have done it without you, and we couldn't have done it without everybody supporting us. So thank you very much. Well, and that said, if ever I bet you didn't even know you helped me, did you? Or that you were by my side or in my thoughts so much, but you were. And so if ever I can help you, I hope that you will always call on me as a colleague and as a friend.